Copic markers are amazing. There are 358 of them, and that can be overwhelming, especially if you're a beginner just starting out. The markers cost $6 to $8 each, and at that price point, selecting the right markers is critical to building your collection in a practical and economic and enjoyable way. And I am going to show you how to do that in this video. So first things first, let's just talk a little bit about the Copic system. So Copics are divided into 10 different color families, and they follow the color wheel. So we have blue violet, violet, red violet, red, yellow, yellow green, green, blue green, which are the colors that you see on the screen right now, and then blue. So those are the 10 color families. We'll come back to earth tones, which are a separate category later, as well as grays, which have their own category. So for the 10 color families, we're going to start with blue green. And these are my recommendations if you want to start building out your blue-green portion of your collection. So I mean, the main piece of advice that I have to offer is to buy your markers in sets of 2 to 3 by color family, because in order to use them properly, you need to be able to blend them. So you need a mid-tone, a highlight, and then a color for shading. So here, my highlight color is BG10, my mid-tone is BG45, and my shading color is BG49. And if you follow this method of buying markers in each color family that blend well together with a mid-tone, a shadow, and a highlight, you will get the best results, and I think have the best time, the most enjoyable time using your markers and advancing in your coloring skills. So for blue-green, those are my 3 recommendations, my must-haves if blue-green is a color family that is appealing to you. The next color family that we're going to look at is violet, and the colors that I recommend in the violet family are V01 and V05. So here we just have our highlight and then our mid-tone. We don't have a shading color just because I don't know that the V09 would be the shading color, but I don't know that it adds that much value to actually purchasing that marker. Here I think that you can get away with, if you want purple, with just starting with V01 and V05. Another thing to know about the Copic numbering system is how the numbers work. So each marker has 2 numbers. The first digit indicates the saturation or the purity of a color. And then the second digit will give you a sense of the brightness. So the higher the number, the darker the color, and the lower the number, the lighter the color. And when we get to our next color family, I will explain how that works. So here we have B21, B24, and then B28. So B21 is our highlight, B24 is our mid-tone, and then B28 is our shadow or shading color. So the B21, right, the 1 indicates that this is going to be the lightest shade in the 20 family. The 4 indicates that that's going to be about a mid-tone because it's somewhere between, right, 0 and 9, or 0 and 10, 0 and 9, that's 0 and 9. And then the 28 is going to indicate that that is going to be a pretty dark color. The 2 represents that it is the 3rd most saturated color in the blue family. So your brightest blue is going to be those in the B00 range. Your second brightest will be the B10s, and then your third brightest will be the B20s. And then your darkest, right, or your grayest blues are gonna be those in the B90s series. And you're gonna see that pattern play its way across all of the different colors in the color family. So the next color family we're going to do is the green color family. And the colors I'm recommending here are G21, G24, and then G29. And I actually wasn't gonna recommend any in the green family because I think that the yellow-green family works just fine. And I'm really not happy, honestly, with any of the greens in the Copic family. I feel like they're all either too bright or too dull. There's just nothing that makes me really happy. So I usually rely pretty heavily on my yellow greens. But others may have a different perspective, so I figured I would let you guys see the green that, if I liked green, the one that I would recommend. So these are the ones in the 20s range, which is going to indicate you know, a moderate level of saturation, and you will get the full range of the lightness and darkness of the series because you have a 1, a 4, and a 9. All right, so now we're going to jump around a little bit and we're going to move into our earth tones, which we're going to use to color in the coffee or the tea in the different mugs. And the browns that I recommend here, I'm going to make recommendations for 2 different series of browns. The first is going to be E31, E35, and E37. These are a very warm brown. They're good for, like, if you like coloring in little animals, little critters, this is a great color. If you like coloring in like chocolate treats and sweets, these browns are good for that. If you like to make darker skin tones, you can use E31 and E35 for that. And here I pulled in a little bit different of a shading color here for this series. I also wanted to show you that you can also use E29 to act as a shadow color for your E30 series. And it also works for E40s, and we're going to look at that as well. So E29 is a marker that I recommend on its own without a family because it does work with other different families. So now I'm going to show you the second brown combination that I recommend, which is E41, E43, and E44. And these colors are also good if you like drawing or if you like coloring in like little critters for card making. Very good for that. It's a cool brown. So if your taste runs more towards cool colors, then you may like the E40s better than the E30s. I think I'm probably partial to the E30s, but I have some days when I really like the E40s. So now we're going to color in some donuts, and I'm going to show you like the different ranges of colors that you can get just using these 3 colors. So you can make, you can make a light donut, you can make a chocolate donut. I guess this one we're making is like a mocha donut, just depending on how you blend them. And this stamp set that I'm using is the Love You a Latte stamp set by Lawn Fawn. It's an old stamp set. I think it might be their first coffee themed stamp set. I used it because it has a lot of rounded images, and I feel like it's good to learn how to do dimensional coloring with like rounded objects, because there are clear points where the color should be light or dark. So when you have a rounded object, typically the center of it is lighter and the edges are darker. So it's just, if you're just starting out, it's a really good practice to draw shapes that are rounded, because it'll be kind of easy to figure out where the shading goes. And I also like cups for this purpose, because the easiest way to shade a cup is just to have your light colors coming out from the sides towards the middle with like a nice highlight in the center. I also think cups are a good thing for beginners to practice coloring because it starts to train your wrist for the flicking motion. That's really, really important in Copic coloring, and as you get more advanced, the better you can flick, the better your coloring is going to be. And it does take some time, I think, to just get used to the technique and to build up the muscle memory for it. So if you just color in a whole bunch of coffee mugs, you know, in no time at all, you'll be a flicking master. So now I am just showing you another color scheme to color in the donuts so that you could get a lighter chocolate donut or a darker chocolate donut, depending on what your mood is, just using E31, E35, and then E29 as your highlight. So another thing to keep in mind is that when you are picking color combinations, so let's say that, you know, you decide that, you know, thanks a lot, Antonio, you showed me a lot of great combinations here, but there's this other marker that you didn't demonstrate that I just have to have. How do I pick the other markers that will blend well with it? And some hints for that are you want to pick markers that are close in range together. So for example, let's say you love R24, right? The colors I would recommend would be 2 below the R24 and then 2 beyond it. So the R20 range has R20, R21, R22, R24, R27, and then R29. So there I would say if you love R24, get yourself an R20 and an R29 to go with it, because then you'll have a light, the lightest, the darkest, and a mid-tone. And you should be able to get a lot of variations, and those colors should blend in well together. And at one point I am going to demonstrate how the R20, R24, and R29 all blend together. So that is one thing to keep in mind, that you want to stay within one range, either like 10s or 20s or 30s or 40s, and then pick a light, like a 1, like a 0 to a 3, and then maybe like a 4 to a 6, and then a 7 to a 9, and let those be your 3 markers. Another way to select markers would be, let's say that, you know, for reds in particular this works. You love R29 and you want to find some other colors that go with it. You could add colors that also have the same second digit in common. So if you put R29 and R39 and R59 and R89 together, they look beautiful. So that is another way to kind of blend your colors, would be to match it with, have the second digits match. And then, you know, there are also like a lot of oddities in Copics where just some colors go really, really well together and they have no real relationship, or other colors that are supposed to blend into each other don't. And a good example of this, ones that don't blend into each other, are E21 and E23. Like, you could sit all day trying to blend E23 into E21 and it's not going to happen. So what I found in instances like that is when you have 2 colors that are right next to each other and they don't blend well, don't use the lighter marker, use the darker marker, but then go over the darker marker with a lighter marker in the spot where you want some lightness, because that can help, the lighter marker can help take away ink or take away color, but you're never going to be able to build that lighter color up to match the darker color in those instances where the colors just don't blend, like an E21 into an E23. So here I'm just kind of showing you the different variations that you can get just using an R81, 85, and 89 marker. So the middle cup is one where we used all 3 colors pretty equally, and then the bottom mug we're just going to use 81, 85, and a tiny, tiny bit of 89. And as you can see, you could get 2 completely different colors with the same 3 markers. Now we're going to go into our next color family recommendation, which is the Rs, the reds, and this is R20, R24, and R29. R20 is also a very important marker, not just as a member of the red family, but also as a member of the earth tones or neutrals family. R20 is a color that if you draw people or characters, you're going to use it a lot because you can use R20 to make like a flushed skin tone. So you can use R20 under like another neutral tone to give a character a flushed look. You can use it to like put blush on a character. A lot of people, when they're card making and they color little critters, they'll like dot the cheeks with R20. They just make cute little cheeks in addition to being a great highlight for your red markers. So R20 is probably like, if I had to pick like the top 10 Copics that you absolutely need, I would say R20 is definitely up there. So while we're finishing coloring in with the reds, I think I'm also going to do some of the like the Starbucks cups with some reds as well, just to show you some other variations that you can get just from like 3 different markers. I want to talk a little bit about the grays. So the grays are their own family as well. There are 4 gray families. There's neutral gray, cool gray, warm gray, and toner gray. When you're starting out, the only one that you need is, I would recommend cool gray. And I would recommend getting, they go from C00 to C10. I would get C1, C3, C5, C7, and if you like to color lots of dark or black images, then C9 also. But otherwise just C1, C3, C5, and C7. And that is going to give you a really broad range for shading. And you can use your grays to shade other colors in the primary families as well. And I think there's an example on here where I'm going to show you when we get to the little coffee mugs with with the little marshmallows in it. I'll show you how to use gray as your shadow color if you just have two markers in one color family. So that's my recommendation. I would get the cool grays. The neutral grays don't really do anything for me, I don't think. They're just kind of plain and flat, but the cool grays are like the true, you know, the shades that go best with black. They're like a true blue-black type of color. The warm grays would be, if you were going to get a second set of grays, then I would advise to get the warm grays. The warm grays will shade with more of like a brown tint to it. So whereas the cool gray, it's sort of like a blue-black tint, the warm grays are more of a brownish tint. And this comes in handy when you're doing things like shading like cream on a cup of hot cocoa, or if you have white that you want to shade, like let's say you are, I don't know, you want to shade Santa's beard or like fur, like white fur, you would, I think the warm grays look best for that. And after you get your cool grays and your warm grays, you don't really need any other grays. The neutral really is just a flat gray, and then the toner gray, I love them, but it's really nothing more than just like a jacked up warm gray. I mean, honestly, like the toner grays are you know, very, very close to the warm grays. So I don't think you need them. But if you want them, you know, and you have the means, by all means, go out and get them and you'll have lots of fun with your toner grays. I use my toner grays when I want to color in metal. It's great if you're doing like a road at nighttime, if you want to give like a comic book effect to things. The toner grays are good for that, but I think you can also accomplish the same with the warm grays. So here I'm just showing you how to shade in a spoon using the 3 of the cool gray markers that I recommend as the essentials. And one thing I will say is that even if you think you're not going to use the grays, You will, because as you get more advanced in your coloring, you'll see you need the grays for shading, you need them for objects around, like the objects that you're coloring in primary colors. It's going to become like an integral part of your coloring and your artwork as you kind of advance and go on. So last but not least, we're going to go over the orange family, or the yellow-red family, I guess it's called in the Copic world, and then the yellow family, and then the yellow-green family, which the yellow-green family is my favorite for green tones, actually. So to start, let's take a look at the yellows, and the yellows that I recommend here are Y11, Y15, and Y19. I feel like it gives you just the right amount of brightness and just the right amount of range to make some really beautiful, vibrant yellows. The Y00s are really, really bright to me, and I don't use them really ever. And I think if you're starting out, this is a good place to start. This is going to give you, I think, the closest to the yellow in the rainbow that you can kind of get. And you can also mix and match them with your yellow reds as well to get some other colors. So for yellow red, I'm just going to recommend two colors, YR04 and YR09. They blend very, very well together, even though they're somewhat far apart. And the yellow red 04 is light enough that I feel like it can double as a highlight or as a midtone. So if you like orange, I think these are the only two you need. If you really love orange and you want to go a little deeper, you might want to add some YR12 and YR15. YR15 is called pumpkin, and it really is close to the color of a pumpkin or like a carrot. So it's a little bit lighter than the YR04-09 combination. For yellow-green, I recommend YG03 and YG09. These colors also, you just need two of them and you can get a really nice blend just using both of them. If you want to kind of up the stakes, and if you like to leave like a lot of glowing areas in your color, or if you just like lighter greens, then I would get YG01 as well. And here I'm just kind of showing you how you can shade with a cool gray marker with these two colors if you feel like the YG03 and YG09 don't give you enough contrast. All right, so I think that is it. I am just going to finish up by filling in the little cocoa mugs and adding a little bit of shading on the marshmallows, just using a C3 marker. I hope everyone enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a lot. I hope that this gives you a good sense of where to start in terms of buying your markers and starting your collection, or if you already have a collection, part of a collection, and building it. And again, my main recommendation is to kind of build your collection by color family and buy markers in sets of 2 and 3 that blend well together. And in this video, I've given you the tips to kind of determine whether or not markers will blend together. You want to either stick within a same range, like 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or you want to have that second digit in the marker, those match. So in our 29, in our 39, in our 59, and in our 89 should go well together. And then to close it all out, I'm just showing you how adding some white highlights with a white gel pen can help to also add some sparkle and interest to your images. And coffee mugs are a good place to kind of start learning how to do the highlights, because they have a lot of like rounded edges where you would put the highlights, and you could put the highlights as lines, as curved lines. You could add some dots either before or after the lines. Just kind of play around with it and have fun. And then the last item that I recommend in your starter collection is definitely get the colorless blender. That's marker 0. That can help you if you need to lighten a color. It can help you. If you color outside of the lines, it can help you fix mistakes. Later on, you can use the colorless blender to make like really cool effects. So if you're drawing an ocean scene and you have really dark blues or blue greens, you can use your colorless blender to make bubbles in the water just by like dotting it on the page. Looks really, really cool. So I urge you to get your colorless blenders and just start experimenting and get a sense of how you can make it work for you. All right, everyone, that's all I have for tonight. I hope you have a great weekend. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I will do my best to get back to you.